Hi, this might be a little bit of a rambling video. It's the first one I've done in a little while. Today's the day of the full moon in Scorpio, and we're really almost through the cardinal grand cross that a lot of astrologers have been talking about. So I think it's been quite a heavy time for a lot of people. Um, what I was uh, wanted to just share was things I've been thinking about, and also some nice things that I've actually found online. Because I've been thinking about or very much appreciating, the need to be positive, and the need to kind of tune into the positive. Um, I'm someone who I really appreciate that. Life is really hard for a lot of people, and really just for a lot of living creatures, essentially. Um, so I've really come to appreciate just how important a sort of positive functioning is. Um, and I think really to be positive is to be internally unburdened, and to be creative, and to have a kind of spaciousness of functioning that makes it much easier to actually live. Yeah. And I think that's a life skill which not all of us are taught by our upbringing, or indeed by the culture that we live in. And what I think it really comes down to is a sort of spiritual power. Um, it's a power which isn't physical, it's not technological, it's not intellectual, it's not any other kind of idea of material force or ability that we normally recognize as power. It's not even the power of persuasion or communication, and it's certainly not any kind of manipulation. It's not power over, and it's not power under. In the tarot, I think that it's something which is represented by the Strength card, which shows a female figure either opening or closing the jaws of a lion generally, and she has an infinity symbol over her head in some packs. In others she has a wide-brimmed hat which actually forms an infinity sign with its brim. I think that's where it occurs in the tarot. But this power, which I'm linking with positivity and the capacity to be positive, um, it's a power which is fundamentally unified and unifying, and it's unchallenged. That's what's so extraordinary about it, I think. The other thing about this power, though, this sense of the positive, is that it's not just a power, but it's also a kind of world. And the fact that it's also a world makes it a sort of shelter and a gateway as well. So positive power is a very real thing for me. I think in many ways, for me, a lot of our problems are due to both us and our society, and even its reformers at times having everything really back to front and upside down, because we're caught in identification with what we essentially aren't, and in a world of appearances that really misrepresents the true nature of causality and also the true nature of being. So that all makes it very difficult in that way, for people to actually see through things, because the question they're presented with conventionally is not even a real question. And so the answers they can find tend to get hooked back into the same false questions and the same false sense of power and causality. So it becomes a vicious cycle in a sense. And this positive power actually can help us get out of that. And that sense of everything being tended to be misidentified and misidentified. Um, that in the tarot I would link with the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man represents truth, or the realization of truth in some respects. It's one of the things that the Hanged Man represents. And the thing is, the Hanged Man is hanging upside down, but he's upside down to conventional reality. And the conventional reality itself is already upside down, so, you know, he's actually turning the right way up. But that's not the way the world would see it. But anyway, I've been reminded recently that I really need to hang on to that sense of positive power, and that I need to remember it. The remembrance is really important. And sometimes I think when we go through really difficult times, it's actually a kind of blessing in disguise, because then we do have to reach backwards and reach into ourselves, or through, to something which is more real than what we're presented with. Now, the thing that I found the other day, which was really good and which I found really helpful, was a blog post. I think it was on a blog called The Elephant Journal, and it was by someone called Julie Peters, and it was about a Hindu goddess called Akhilandeshvari. And Akhilandeshvari is a really interesting goddess, it seems. She's from the Hindu pantheon, and some people say that she's a form of Parvati, who is a very great goddess in that pantheon. Now, there are a number of ways her name can be translated, it seems. One is Supreme Goddess who rules the universe, but there's another one which is translated as the Always Broken Goddess, because Akhalanda translators never not broken, so as a double negative. It sort of means always broken, but it's a double negative, which sort of adds to it, really. And I think that was really, really interesting. And I found her a fascinating goddess. She's depicted as riding on a crocodile as well. That's her mount, riding or standing, but she's on a crocodile. And I thought that was really fascinating too, because crocodiles are really quite extraordinary animals. In some of her icons, she's actually shown as almost coming apart and being in pieces amidst this great light which seems to emanate from her. Again, that's really fascinating. But this whole idea of brokenness and the actual spirituality and the reality that comes through brokenness and being in the state of being broken down, I thought was really amazing, It really spoke to me, and it really reminded me of experiences I've been through many years ago when I'd had a breakdown, but it had actually led to the most enormous opening up. And I realized that really that's my natural state in a way. And that was actually really quite a relief and really good. I mean, from reading these articles, because there was two that I found on her, and they had much the same sort of information in them, I really got a sense of Akhilandeshvari as the power of being broken. Like that time when all our strategies to try and construct and fake an independent coherence and stability and a kind of invulnerability, when all of those strategies fail and our illusory wholeness is broken, when it's really done and over, when all those things based on fear and what we actually aren't, when they're all completely scuppered, then there's an enormous light becomes possible. Then something becomes liberated at that point. And one of the things that Julie Peters on the Elephant Journal says is the following: It's the kind of broken that tears apart all the stuff that gets us stuck in toxic routines, repeating the same relationships and habits over and over, rather than diving into the scary process of trying something new and unfathomable, which is wonderful. And of the crocodile, she says crocodiles are interesting in two ways. Firstly, Stoneberg explains that the crocodile represents our reptilian brain, which is where we feel fear. Secondly, the predatory power of a crocodile is not located in their huge jaws, but rather that they pluck their prey from the banks of the river, take it into the water, and spin it until it is disoriented. They whirl that prey like a dervish seeking God. They use the power of spin rather than brute force to feed themselves. Which is amazing, really. So the way I'm seeing this, the crocodile could be seen as the knot that holds us here, as what we've got conditioned to be, and as what we are not in essence and reality. In a way, the crocodile is all the fear, the panic, and the rage that underlies normality and ego life. But the aspect of spinning and confusion is also very interesting, I think. For confusion is both distressing and liberating, and the power of the crocodile is part of what breaks us up. So the crocodile is both a part of what we seem to be, and also it's what frees us. But as Julie Peters points out as well, the experience of brokenness and liberation in brokenness also implies an understanding that whatever we rebuild, that itself can again become a relative prison. You know, a condition, a rut, something that's built on the fear which the crocodile also embodies. You know, we really might choose not to be put together too tightly, so that we can actually retain the blessing of that state of not being bound in that way, so that there's actually something to really be learned from brokenness, not as something to avoid, actually, but as some condition, some situation, and a condition really, where we're finally able to see certain things as they really are, and actually give in to things as they truly are with us, which is a good thing, actually. And that's really interesting. So, you know, what that says about how we could live. You know, if we could actually take into account those things that we learn through breakdown and being broken down, and actually let that inform the way that we live, so that we can actually not be trapped in ruts and not be trapped in fear, but without avoiding how things are, without avoiding a situation, that we can actually have that kind of courage. But it's not like a kind of macho courage. It's a sort of courage of honesty and being able to be fallen apart when that is how we are, and a courage of not holding too tightly to things, of not being constantly afraid of loss in that way. Anyways, it's a really interesting set of ideas and associations, and it really resonated with me, and I found it very, very helpful. So remembering Akhilendeshvari and the crocodile has been a very good thing for me. It's really been a very good thing. And I think one of the things with this whole thing of the brokenness and the liberation implicit in the brokenness and the choices is that there is choice in it. There is a choice in the teaching, just as there is in magic. And there's a great relief of honesty in it. So I found all of those things really interesting and very helpful. And I think they relate to magic, and they relate to the power of the positive as well. And I really found it helpful to just come into contact with those forms and those ideas, and to just meditate on them a bit, really. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting, and I hope you're having a very nice May.